I've been on the board of Rogue Valley Habitat for Humanity for about 4 years. I'm currently serving as the president of the board for about the last year.
My involvement with Rogue Valley Habitat in the beginning was I applied to purchase a home through Rogue Valley Habitat, and then eventually helped out with some of the committees, and I helped do videos obviously once in a while too.
I was asked to do their legal work when it first started many years ago. And I thought it was a kind of an honor to be asked.
Okay, I started out being partner family number 1. I received the first house that this affiliate in the Rogue Valley built.
My involvement with Rogue Valley Habitat was as vice president of the board for a couple of years, I believe in 1999, and then for 6 years was the president, if I have the dates right.
I'm currently the executive director and have been with the Habitat affiliate for nearly 16 years.
So my involvement with Rogue Valley Habitat was I was actually the first paid executive director, and they've been around for about 16 years working with volunteers only, and I was the first paid staff person.
My involvement was joining a committee when the Habitat was just beginning, and there was a meeting about an organization being founded for the Rogue Valley. There was no Habitat here, no Habitat for Humanity. And I had read about it, and a friend of mine asked me if I would like to come to this meeting, and I went with her, and her name was Shirley Patton, and I decided that I would join the organization.
I was working for Harry and David at the time. I was a single mother with 5 children, and a coworker actually mentioned it to me. I'd never heard of it. And so I'm like, oh, that's a perfect idea, I'll apply.
My mother, she actually got the newspaper. I couldn't afford it at that time. And she found a little article and she passed it my way, and she said, you should look into this. And when I received the notice, it was like, oh my gosh, this is the deadline when you gave it to me, you know? So I just put it in as fast as I could, and not really knowing what I was getting into, but I thought, anything's better than where I'm living now.
The biggest obstacle was funding and finding land. They kind of went hand in hand. So we were really struggling with bringing in enough money to build enough houses.
Like any nonprofit, the biggest problem is always, do we have enough money to function? I think they've done a pretty good job with that. They've become quite popular here in the Valley, but in those days, almost no one had even heard of them.
Biggest obstacle for Habitat at that time was finding property to put houses on.
The biggest obstacle facing Habitat is getting our fundraising program in place. That we need to raise about $60,000 for every house that we build. We need to get that in cash. We also get in-kind donations and volunteer labor, but we need to raise that money for things that we can't have donated or supplied by volunteers.
And the first part, of course, was raising the money to build the houses and finding the land. It was difficult because the price of land was high, and sometimes there was no land available with infrastructure like the sewage and the streets and all of that there, so that had to be done.
Finding land and getting the money to build is pretty simple. It was the biggest obstacle, and I'm sure it still is.
Time and compassion for the families. I was on the family selection committee, and so I was part of selecting the first 3 families, and then also helping them, being an advocate for those families in that transition from living in a terrible place to living into a very nice home.
I think my greatest contribution really was I brought back the concept of the Restore. I went to a conference, and it was one of those concepts that had been talked about, and brought it back, and the board was amazing.
Working with the board to establish the foundation for the Restore was very hard. We were in the red for several months, actually got into the black with the Restore in about 14 months. And because of the valley and construction, that was a short time. But there were board members who thought we should ash can it within a year.
I think growing the Restore, of course, has been the biggest contribution. Finding sustainable income, which can provide the source that we need to run all of the operations.
My greatest contribution was assisting in the building of my house. That was tremendous for me, and being able to have my children there and my family.
My fondest Habitat memory was the housewarming for house number 22, Jose Luis Enriquez, who's still active. He and his 3 daughters and wife were there. There was a large crowd in the front yard. And Jose Luis said something along these lines: "If only I had listened to my wife sooner, we would already be in this house." It brought the place a smile to everyone's face and tears to everyone. It was just very heart-wrenching.
My fondest, of course, was when I moved into my own house and felt the joy of home ownership, and just knowing that the community came to me to help me, and they supported me all the way through.
My favorite was we had the holiday party every year, and all the families would come, and everyone brought food, and the kids were just amazing, and really watching them grow up over the years, I would say, is my fondest memory. I run into the kids of the families all the time and see how they've grown and succeeded. It's pretty heartwarming.
It's when we do the women build, and we get to come in the morning and all the walls are laying flat on the floor. And by the end of the afternoon, they're all upright and it looks like there's a house. And so I've been a part of those now. This is my 3rd year. And that's really the nicest memory I have of Habitat.
I think it's always handing the key to the family. I don't have a single specific family that's been my favorite, but that's always the fondest time. When you're able to hand the key over and say, "Here, welcome to your home."
My fondest, I have to say, is working on my house and working with the different builders. You know, some of them I got pretty close with, you know, and I wish I'd been able to keep relationships with them afterwards, but, you know, a few years ago, every once in a while at one of the dinners, I'll see them, and it's just like old home week.
Walking down Walker Avenue and seeing a hammer, a nice contractor's hammer in the middle of the street, and thinking, that's what the theology of the hammer is all about. And I picked it up. I had no way of knowing who owned it. And taking it to a meeting that night and saying, this is what Habitat works, and then giving it to them to use.
I remember one Hispanic family with just very responsible people. I had a couple of little kids. As I remember, one of them had some physical disabilities. I have a fond memory of that family.
They believed in me and helped me believe in me, and they helped my children believe in themselves. And I kept telling my children, we are so lucky that we were selected for this home. It's so nice to know that people love us and people care. And that made a world of difference in our self-esteem. That changed my life. My dream came true, and my children did fantastic things. You know, I still, as a parent, got a few gray hairs raising them. But the thing is, in the end, I am so proud.
When I first came to Habitat, I was a single parent with 5 children. My own. I was working 2 jobs, one full-time job and another one 3/4 of the time. Wasn't around my children much. We lived in a very rundown apartment in a not so great neighborhood, and I was afraid for them. I was afraid for myself a lot, and I wanted something better for them. I didn't want to have to be moving around every few years like I did growing up. I wanted someplace stable and secure for them to come home to. And I have to say, now that I've been in my Habitat home more than 20 years, I am an empty nester now. My children are all grown, and I couldn't be prouder. I was able to give them a stable home, you know, someplace that I could afford, that was safe, They could come home to every day. We didn't have to worry about, moving and, making new friends and, just one place. And all but one of my children has also purchased a house themselves.
There is a funny Habitat story. I traveled with a group of donors and staff and volunteers to El Salvador, where we built a house for a very nice family in El Salvador. And one of the key things was to make sure that everyone was safe. And unfortunately, at one time, the grandmother came out and started playing music and dancing on a hill above. I started dancing with her, and I fell over backwards onto a piece of rebar in one of my buttocks. And so that's kind of the funniest Habitat story that I have.
We put a notice out asking for volunteers. It went real well. We had 400, but then we didn't figure out what to do with 400 volunteers, so that was fun.
We were doing a 2-story build, and a young woman volunteer was on a ladder at the second floor window. We had framing done. We had a congressman come to visit, and he decided he would interview her. And she was standing facing him with a nail gun in her hands, with her hand on the trigger. And the whole time I'm thinking this is going to be a disaster. And in any event, it worked out fine. It blows my mind. If one embraces the Habitat idea and you see families come from really difficult situations into permanent, decent housing that's affordable. You see children raised up, being able to go to college, coming back and contributing to Habitat. So it's just amazing to me.
It makes me feel very good, but it makes me feel very hopeful for the future, because I know that with every home is repaid, that money goes back into making more new homes and financing more new homes.
It's amazing. It really, to have been part of sort of the earlier days and see where it's come, it's really amazing when I see it on TV, when I read about it, when I get the newsletter, when I, just any contact I have with people, watching how the store has grown, it's really, it feels like I was a part of it, and I really feel good about that.
Makes me feel good. Makes me feel like we've done our job.
What it makes me feel is how wonderful it is that the people that started this organization 30 years ago, and then ever since then, the donors, the staff, the homeowners who paid their mortgages back to us, how we now get to continue that into another 30 years and beyond.
Warm and fuzzy. It's been a great experience. I think we're ready to do even more.
I thought it's too much of a help in the community for it not to.
At first, no. No, I never imagined in a million years that they would, be helping so many people by now. It's awesome.
No, I sure didn't. I look at now at all that we've accomplished, and I'm very proud of what we've done within the community and proud of the community volunteers and donors that have participated.
Not really, not in the time that it's been here. No.
I didn't, and I never expected it to grow this big, especially because when I was there, finding the money and finding land was so hard, and to see how it's just really, literally just exploded and blossomed, and so many houses have been built and so many families have been served. I know I didn't expect it to happen.
I hope it just keeps going, and I guess the real dream is, will we ever reach a time that we can provide homes for everybody in need? And I think, God willing, it'll happen.
Doing very well, making a contribution to housing for people in need here in Rogue Valley. It would be wonderful if we could double the number of families going from 60 to whatever that number is that might be possible. Maybe 300 family members would be just fantastic. The Restore is a big support, maybe more locations for the Restore. So I think the sky's the limit because it's such a wonderful program.
building more and more houses, of course.
Well, I really hope that they'll just continue where they're at and build more and more houses for families in need. We have so many families in need in the Rogue Valley. And to continue to bring that pride to families because they help build it. Most of us buy houses and we don't even know how it's built, and the families get the chance to see how their house is built. They take pride in it, and what I see is actually they're amazing community members because of that.
In the next 30 years, I hope to see Habitat increasing even more opportunities for homeowners. That as we continue to build our fundraising base, our opportunities to expand homeownership for safe, reliable homes, that's where I see us in the next 30 years. And I'll look forward to being part of this video 30 years from now.
I hope to see it be in all the towns in the valley, and in rural areas where they can do multi-builds. And I hope that maybe people can give them a break on the cost of the land, especially.
Happy birthday, Habitat for Humanity, Rogue Valley.
Happy birthday, Rogue Valley Habitat.
Happy birthday, Rogue Valley Habitat.
Happy birthday, Rogue Valley Habitat for Humanity.
Happy birthday, Rogue Valley Habitat for Humanity.
Happy birthday, Habitat for Humanity.
Happy birthday, Habitat for Humanity.
Happy birthday, Habitat for Humanity, Rogue Valley. You've done some wonderful things in the past, and you're going to be doing a whole lot more wonderful things. I think you're a wonderful organization. Congratulations.